Are live. Eric Butler, we are live. This is real. Welcome back to Unauthorized Opinions, UOPod.com. Like, share, subscribe.
It's pure propaganda and it's super cringe, by the way.
An unopened can of orange soda just chilling in the parking lot. I was like, yeah, I gotta vote for Trump, dude.
It's great here, a lot of fat chicks and a lot of screaming.
Your podcast sucks. It's mental, mate.
Hello, everyone. Eric Butler, how are you?
Hello. Maintaining, living the dream.
Maintaining the dream. Hakeem Olajuwon. Welcome back to UOPod, Unauthorized Opinion, the greatest podcast that involves a white and a black person. I'm declaring it now. And we are live from Canada and the United States and everywhere else on the moon, unauthorizedopinions.com. And you can always catch our bonus podcast every weekend on patreon.com/UOPod. We've got lots to get to. The WNBA had a meltdown, Eric, over Alex Stein. The NYPD is discovering, some unhoused, undocumented people who have, taken the next step in the journey of energies, let's say, before we get banned. Even though we're already demonetized by YouTube. And since we're already demonetized by YouTube, whatever platform you're watching, please like and share and subscribe to help us grow. We're growing every single week.
There should be no reason this episode is already demonetized. Is it? How could that be?
I don't know. It's just every single time we start a podcast, YouTube automatically demonetizes it, and then we win the challenge every single week. I think the only time we've lost a challenge was XBB.1.5 when Jimmy Fallon was singing a pro booster song on his show, and they copyright slammed us for that, and we lost it somehow, so it wasn't monetized. But every week YouTube demonetizes us, so it's important that you guys listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else, and then check us out and consider our Patreon, because it's pretty sweet, because you get a full podcast every week extra and no lag, no delays, because the internet hates us. Brittany Griner, as we all know, Eric, was
I just want to say
there's
nothing in the there's nothing in the title. I'm just very confused about this whole situation, but whatever. Moving on.
TranzPhantom Menace.
Well, is that what it's
TranzPhantom Menace possible? I thought maybe the Z would throw everybody off.
You got to go with this is ridiculous. Okay, doesn't matter. Moving on. BG, our good friend BG.
Big BG. You gotta start doing something like a segment for all the callbacks that we have to do. Maybe a remix, because we have to constantly readdress the stories. Brittany Griner's one. What's his face? The swimmer.
Obviously, Will.
Leah Thomas. Yeah. Big Willie style. We have so many callbacks we have to do. We have to start doing a segment, because Brittany Griner feels like she's our sister now.
Yeah, and I think I smell a couple more Elliot Page stories coming our way too, but we'll see how that goes.
Elliot phones home. Brittany Griner arriving home from wherever. Who knows where the WNBA was last played. Arriving at the airport, and Alex Stein was there to ask her questions that, frankly, no other he asked questions that probably no other journalist should ask, but he also asked questions that no other journalist would ask. So let's take a look see what the interaction was like, because this caused a huge political PR meltdown for the WNBA.
BG, was that a fair trade for the Merchant of Death? I know you killed it on the court, but he kills it in real life. Is it true you didn't have sex with Vladimir Putin to get released from Russia, Britt? Get out of the way, dog.
Oh, did we lose it there that quickly?
Well, it was a little choppy. It wasn't quite smooth.
Britt,
here we go.
Britt, is it true you had to get out of the way? What about his wife? What are you doing? I'm trying.
Is it working for you, Eric?
It looks terrible. It's super choppy. It's a very low quality. I don't know if it's worth going through an entire minute and a half at that quality.
I'm dying over here. My audio is dying.
Talk to me.
All right, we'll download it and we'll bring it up. But Alex Stein basically
We're having
that
technical difficulties.
hey, Brittany Griner, did you sleep with Vladimir Putin? Did you? What's that?
No, I'm just saying we're having technical difficulties. I don't know what's happening.
He says, "Do you still hate America?" He says all this stuff. What about the Merchant of Death, the guy who they traded for Brittany Griner? And you know, you're walking through an airport. You're a highly politicized individual, Brittany Griner. Yet you can't say anything. You can't laugh. I mean, maybe it's not that's joking of a situation for her, but nobody else is ever going to ask, like, do you think that it was wrong that they traded you for an arms dealer they made a movie about? Do you think, like, no, is anybody going to ask her follow-up questions about how she said, you know, she has more of appreciation for America, even though she used to say, I don't want to come out for the national anthem? Nobody's going to ask her these questions, Eric. And it's up to political comedian Alex Stein to, you know, to actually ask these questions and get any semblance of an answer, which of course is not given. And then we have the WNBA going into full meltdown mode, tweeting everything out and, you know, scrambling PR wise to cover this.
Let me guess.
Even though it was like a minute and a half video and she said nothing.
Hang on. Is my audio okay? Can you hear me? Is there seems like there's an incredible lag that it's showing up like 15 seconds later that you're hearing my voice.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Hold on a second. Yeah, hold on. Let me get some playback here.
Mic check 1 2.
So it's coming through on the podcast. I think there's just something on our back end here, Eric. So we're gonna have to do the old taking our time, I think, doing that, if you could hear me.
I can hear you just fine. I feel like we need to put up the little graphic image of the dog with a cord in his mouth, like we're having not political. Brittany Griner's having political difficulties. We're having technical difficulties, but
Technical difficulties.
I don't
Sounds a bit better now.
Okay.
So Brittany Griner and team confronted by provocateur at airport. The Phoenix Mercury are reviewing an incident at a Dallas airport on Saturday, which you just saw a snippet of. Confronted Griner and her teammates. I love how I mean, technically confronting is true, Eric, but you know,
I can only assume
ask questions.
I can only assume that this will boil down to life and death. Her life is in danger because Alex Stein is, and look, it's pretty silly, right? Like, oh, did you have sex with Vladimir Putin? that's like Seth Rogen level nonsense. But they're gonna blow it completely out of proportion. And they're basically doing what he wants them to do, right? Like, we all know she's not going to answer any of those questions, but he's going to get the clicks. He's going to, you know, there's going to be millions of people who are going to see the story because they're crying about it. And this is how it always goes. They try to, is it the Streisand effect? Is that what where they try to.
Streisand effect, yeah.
Okay, maybe it's not quite the Streisand effect, but they're going to cry and whine about it and say that he's an extremist and people are going to go to his page. And however outrageous this question about having sex with Vladimir Putin, which I actually hadn't seen, is just people are gonna go there and they're gonna realize that he's actually funny. And then you can note this comment here, the single comment on that ESPN post: y'all are mad because what he was saying is true. I mean,
Alex Stein, a Dallas native who has gained some notoriety for confronting politicians, just some. He doesn't have a show, a popular show. He doesn't have, you know, international fame. He doesn't have a bigger audience than the WNBA. Just some notoriety, just a smidgen. Posted a photograph on Twitter saying, "I just met my favorite WNBA player. Video coming soon." Stein also posted a brief clip of him yelling at Griner as she walked through the airport. Next slide, please. You get the clicker up there. Next slide. Late Saturday afternoon. This is just like, isn't it amazing how somebody has to stretch like a minute and a half video into like a 6-slide thing or however long this is? 4.
We're
Late
gonna
Saturday afternoon, the
investigate.
Mercury. We are reviewing the incident that took place at the Dallas airport. The health and well-being of our players and staff are our top priority, and we always take every step within our power to protect player safety. Yeah, so Alex Stein was going to go and beat up your players. That's the angle they're going with here. We are committed to our support of BG, who we're now calling her. Very professional. KG, BG. And advocating for all. How's nobody called her KGB yet? Come on now.
Look, we shouldn't be calling her BG because there was a BG before her of Hot Boys fame in the early 2000s, right? That's the real BG. Am
Right,
I
of
wrong?
course. I don't know who that
BG,
is.
Juvenile, Lil Wayne, the Hot
Yeah,
Boys.
but nobody knows who the other two guys were.
Well, I do, and one was named BG, and he shall have the name BG, not this basketball lesbian.
Listen, Eric, we're going to continue our advocating for all American hostages abroad. I mean, you don't do that. I mean, when was the last time you saw the WNBA make a big stink of like other hostages in other countries? I've never heard of that before. Maybe I'm wrong. It continues. We will continue our support of marginalized communities in fighting the kind of hate that target us today. No one, regardless of identity, should ever fear for their safety. We'll be coordinating with the. Oh my God, Eric Butler. So not only were they in danger, these very tall women with security against a guy who's just loudly asking questions of them, albeit silly, from 10 feet away. They were in danger and they were targeted because of their sexuality or identity or whatever they want to go with. I can't believe there's another slide we have to read here.
Well, that is. Am I wrong in saying that that's basically the next step away from just saying it's life and death, right? Like,
Yeah,
her
you're
health,
one
and
step
her health
away
and,
for sure.
Yeah, her health and safety. Oh, we're so concerned. Give me a break.
The league said Saturday that Griner had been approved to fly charter for WNBA games. It's unclear why she was not doing so Saturday. So basically, because she's in danger, they should be getting private flights. We'll continue before we get more commentary. Griner being approved by the league to charter for all games is an exception because of the publicity surrounding her detainment and release. However, her agent Lindsay Kagawa-Colas said she thinks the entire Mercury team and all teams need to charter flights. So, point one, she gets chartered flights because she's more famous than the rest of you. And then her agent says, "Whoa, we don't want the other teammates to hate her," which they will if she gets private jets and they don't. They say, "We think all of the teams and all the players should get private jets." But Eric Butler, why would the WNBA and its players not get private jets? Do you want to field that with a guess by any chance?
I can only imagine it's because they may not be bringing in quite as much money as say
I see.
the NBA. Maybe, I don't know. That would be my guess. Obviously, I'm not an accountant. I'm certainly not a WNBA fan, so I don't know why they wouldn't be flying private. Right? I mean,
Because they don't have any money, Eric. They don't have the money to spend $30,000 3 times a week back and forth for teams that have a net profit of zero, negative zero,
yeah, they're in the
below
red.
zero.
Yeah. So it's also funny. Does this kind of remind you? There was a story a while ago of some politician. I think she was like from Chicago or Memphis or something, who was chartering private jets all around, and then said on the taxpayer dime, of course. I don't remember the specifics of this story, but one of these crooked, corrupt Democrats was chartering jets all over the place, and then of course the I'm not going to pay this back. I guess there was some stipulation that it was supposed to be reimbursed to the city, and she says, "Well, I'm not going to do that because obviously my safety is at stake, right?" Like, so I'm in danger, so I have to fly private. And even if you were in danger, which I don't believe them to be, you'd have to at least think briefly, why am I in danger? Of course, they would say, well, oh, black woman. It's not because I'm completely shafting the entire city and siphoning money, out of the coffers for the city. It's not because I'm completely corrupt along with the rest of basically the entire Democratic Party or Republicans, all politicians. That wouldn't have anything to do with it. The only reason my life is in danger and I have to fly private is because Black woman. It's all absolutely ridiculous. And that's basically what Brittany and her little team are saying here.
So the weird thing is that Democratic Representative Adam Kinzinger, who you may remember from
But he's a
the guy
Republican.
crying at the January. Is he? That's insane. That's one of those situations where you would
Yeah,
listen to like Anna Navarro or something, or Mitt
exactly.
Romney, and be like, "Oh, so that's strange." I thought for sure. I guess I never really cared to check it out. That's insane. But Adam Kinzinger, who cried on the January 6th committee, for reasons beyond me, as if like, yeah, you can look into that for yourself. He made the very powerful commentary here of
I love the
calling Alex Stein
still of
fat.
Alex. I love the still image of Alex here. It's hilarious. Sorry, he's just like he's got the biggest
He
ear
took
to
a
ear.
screenshot of a TikTok. Yeah. And he says Jenny Craig might help the face on or Ozempic question mark. And that was like, so my guess is that you condemn him for, taking shots at people, but then your response is to insult him in like in a joking manner. So it doesn't really make sense to me. Oh, you're being mean. Looks like you're fat. Ha ha ha. I'm a politician who you should take seriously. Like it's just not a good look. I just thought I'd throw that in there because it's weird that a politician would just throw themselves in the ring and insult a comedian when he's talking about a dub. Like it's just weird. It's like, why are you coming to defense of this woman who is widely perceived to be like anti-American and you're Republican? I don't know. It's just very strange, Eric. Very
Dude, a
strange stuff.
fat joke. I
Alex
mean,
Stein is
that was so corny. Like Jenny Craig is what, bro? We haven't even heard Jenny Craig. Are they even still around? It's been like the 90s or something, early 2000s when Jenny, like, bro, oh, these people. I guess cringe is totally overused, but like that is the cringe cream of the crop right there. Like that was. Dude, these people
what's
are
the name of the
pathetic.
guy who had the thing where you put your hands on it and you swing back and forth? Tony something. That's what he should have referenced as, or the Thigh Master or something. You
Oh
don't know
yeah,
what I'm
Billy
talking about?
Tybo
Not
or
Billy
Billy Blanks.
Blanks.
Oh, okay.
No, this is like 1989, probably. A guy with curly hair and a ponytail, and he's got you on this thing that kind of looks like an elliptical, but it's completely powerless, and it's just two handles with two things you put your feet on, and you're just, if I can get sideways here, you're just going back and forth, up and down. And he sold a ton of them, but they don't really do anything. Look at my
I forget.
mic skills, Eric. I'm just all over it. No matter where I am, I'm still, my face is still on the mic.
I remember that thing, but I don't remember what it's called. But dude, these people are just the worst, bro. And what makes this worse, and I guess kind of proves my point about the entire political establishment, is that you weren't even aware that guy's a Republican. That's like, yeah, he is the male version of Anna Navarro. Like, I'm the sane one, I'm the rational one, orange man bad. But they hold quite literally none of the traditional conservative, every single thing. And it's not just Donald Trump, like every single thing. Like Adam Kinzinger would go to bat for the Transformer
Connection is
kids.
down
And
here.
then, oh yeah, you're frozen. I don't know what to do, bro. Is it your Canadian internet? Is this Justin Trudeau? Now I can't even hear you. Oh, this is a mess. Can you hear me? Are we back? No? I can't hear you. Can you hear me? He wants me to leave and come back.
My audio working is a question.
I can hear you now. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
we're back. I can hear you.
All right. Okay.
Got it on
Oh,
my
not
phone
even.
too. It's working.
Okay. All right. Am I still live? Can you see?
Okay.
Am I still paired?
Yes, we're still live. And thank you for everybody sticking with us here. So what's this
Am I
about?
still paired on your end? Can you see that?
Are you still paired on my end to the Report and Opine on YouTube channel? We are checking. Yes, we are. So Eric, what's this? Sorry for the delay, everybody. My computer really windowsing out, we'll call it.
You gotta switch to
so-
Mac.
Never again. Mac, never again. So NYPD is finding a bunch of overdose migrants. Where exactly?
At a migrant hotel or wherever they're at a mega shelter, they say. So I'm not exactly sure what borough it is in. Brooklyn, of course. Of course, it's in Brooklyn. So
Mhm.
not at the notorious Row Hotel, which is the one that I saw with my own two eyes near Times Square a few months ago. And it was just like I hate to sound like a weirdo hippie, but it was just bad vibes, bro. There's just these people lurking outside of this hotel, and as soon as you go in, you know, we knew what was up, but we had to pretend and say, okay, like we were hoping to book a room for the night, and they're like, it's not a hotel no more, it's a shelter. It's like, dude, this is weird, this is aggressive, and there's masks and hand sanitizer and all this stuff all over the place. So they're pretending that they're going to keep you safe. Meanwhile, they're letting these illegals have free reign of New York City. But this one, I believe to be incredibly triggering. Can you bring the article back up? Because there's a couple things that we should pinpoint in this article just from yesterday. So this is brand new stuff. All right. Can you see it? Yeah, it's a little small, but I'm looking at it on over here too. So the New York Police Department probes Brooklyn. Are we good? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Everything?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
So, New York Police Department probes Brooklyn migrant shelter after 2 overdose deaths. Okay. So keep in mind that while New York is setting up vending machines for free crack pipes, and the mayor is floating, as the media has said, the idea of letting migrants live in private residences of New Yorkers. So they have 2 issues rolled into one here, right? Obviously, the migrant crisis and the drug crisis that they're dealing with. And this is the best part. The men who were staying at the Humanitarian Emergency Response and Relief Center at Jefferson Ave in Bushwick. Okay? So if the Humanitarian Emergency Response Relief Center wasn't a euphemism enough, it's in Bushwick, right? Are you familiar with Bushwick? It's basically the hipster central of the world, right? Like Bushwick, Williamsburg, that's where all of
I am not. No.
I guess the Zoomers, the coffee shop, avocado toast, young millennials, old Zoomers,
Okay.
the beanie, the guys that have the beanies that just kind of float on the top of their head, and these scraggly beards and cigarettes and all that stuff. That's literally where they live. So it makes perfect sense, because you would also think that demo is all about the migrants, right? Now, I don't want to turn everything into a race issue, but I think it's pretty clear that most of the people who are advocating for this are white. Neither here nor there. It gets better. The men, identified as Anthony Jose Luna Ruiz of Venezuela and Johnny Jose Torres of Colombia. So these are the people that Eric Adams has called asylum seekers. And I'm no expert. Geography is not my strong suit. But if you were living in Venezuela and or Colombia, you'd have to go through several countries before you end up in the United States. And that alone would not make you an asylum seeker, right? As we go through it, we'll see who's dealing there. Chief of Detectives James Issac said, if there is continuing drug dealing, if there's any sort of hierarchy, that will be a part of our investigation. So you've let these people into the country illegally. You've put them up for free in a hipster neighborhood, even though they went through 5 different countries. You call them asylum seekers, and they are now flooding your streets with drugs. As you put vending machines for crack pipes on the streets and ask residents of New York to house these migrants. I mean, does it get any more? I don't even, what's the word for this? it's not dystopian. I guess it is kind of dystopian, but this is the peak, bro. These are all of your issues basically in one. And do you think, last thing here, as per my trademark, do you think that these migrants are going to be on board with all of your weirdo transgender nonsense? Just out of curiosity. That's an honest question. Do you think that the same people who wouldn't even eat the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches you tried to give them because they wanted the food of their native land, do you think they're going to be on board with you trying to turn the little anchor babies that they gave birth to in the migrant hotels? You think they're going to allow you to cut their junk off? I mean, give me a break, bro. This is just to the max. This is the extreme nature of what we're dealing with.
Well, the thing is that this is just what you asked what to call it. The thing is, this is just happening everywhere now. Every single city, I would wager around the world, suffers from the same problems, from the same policies at this point. And what those policies are seem to be anyone can come in for any reason, and we have to give them preferential treatment no matter what it costs, and at the expense of everyone else. So it doesn't matter if you're going to Australia or Sweden and Texas and New Hampshire and whatever city in North America or the Western world you go to, you are expected to foot the bill for a person just because they came from a different country. It's a very
but they wouldn't do
weird.
it for you. Do you think they would do it for you?
No, it's if I came from a list of pre-approved countries, then yes, they would. I just don't understand how that's supposed to be sustainable and how that's logical. It's all, Eric, as we all know, it all comes back to we can't be mean. We can't be mean. We can't ask a person, or we can't disagree with a person's reason for coming to this country because that might be mean. This is what it all comes down to. We're at the bottom of the slide of, everyone's a winner. And my kid's not bad. My kid's not bad. That's sport. Everyone's actually a winner. We're at the bottom of the slide of that, because what that leads to is you can't call anyone bad. You can't call anyone wrong. You can't dispute my truth, my lived experience. You can't say that what I came from isn't exactly a rough enough situation to have to migrate across 3 countries and skip 4 of them and come to America. You can't disagree with anyone. You can't say that I don't feel like a woman. You can't say that I'm not a man. You can't say that the WNBA sucks. It's all just comes back to paralyzing people about being mean. And it's this weird, like, communism has come in forms of, we're all poor. The farmers are screwing us over. We need to seize their land and, take it over for ourselves. And that'll be the way we do it. That's the traditional way of communism, create the underclass. But the way they've created this underclass is just in the Western world today is just by saying, hey, you're a victim and nobody's allowed to tell you that you're not a victim. It's been so much easier than civilizations have had to do in the past in China and Vietnam, even in Venezuela, in Africa, in communist Russia and the Eastern Bloc. It was way harder to just institute communism there. But here in the Western countries, they found out that people don't want to be called mean, and or they don't want to be called racist. They don't want to be called sexist, all these different things. And that's all they had to do was convince people that it was mean to say a bunch of things and to not give their money through their government.
Well, I don't think, on the plus side, I don't think anybody's really buying this anymore, right? You can even, a couple weeks ago or maybe a month or 2 ago, when the people were protesting the migrants being housed in school gymnasiums, nobody wants this anymore, right? Except for the political ruling class. And it's funny because they also kind of say the quiet part out loud when you hear people like Nancy Pelosi even say, well, who's going to pick the crops? Or notoriously, Kelly Osbourne, was it? A number of years ago when she was on The View saying, if you kick out all the immigrants, Donald Trump, who's going to scrub your toilet? And they don't even realize how bad it is. But I was hoping really quickly if you can bring up the article once more, because I want you to look at the caption under this photo, under the second photo in the article. Pull that up, please. Yeah, at the bottom of those people camped out. Can you scroll down just a tiny bit? Yeah, and the caption there. Okay, so yeah, look, it says activists and migrants at the Watson Hotel at West 57th Street. Now, if I'm not mistaken, 57th Street is also known as Billionaires Row. Okay. Right. This is where quite possibly the most expensive real estate in the world. So activists and migrants, of course, illegals, are outside of the hotel on 57th Street in Manhattan on February 1st, protesting migrant movement from the hotel to Brooklyn. Think about that. They come here, they demand you let them in, they demand you give them a place to stay. They don't want your nasty peanut butter and jelly because we want the empanadas we had back at home. And now we're going to protest you putting us under a different roof, right? I think that's courteous, right? Just like when I think it's courteous if somebody shows up at your front door and you don't have space for them, you take the time and you take the effort and the money to put them in an Uber and send them to a house that says they need company and they want more people, and they're mad at you for that. It just never ends, bro. Like, how are you going to protest the place they gave you for free on Billionaires Row? You don't want to leave anymore. But you can imagine that if you miss 1 month of rent, well, I shouldn't say 1 month of rent because they do make it incredibly difficult for a landlord to kick anybody out. But your credit's going to take a hit. You have to show 3 months of pay stubs. You have to show ID. You have to show tax returns. You have to you have to jump through. You have to make, and I've said this before on the show, but in New York City, 9 times out of 10, you have to prove you earn 40 times the rent annually. We're not, in most places, it's double the rent or 3 times the rent. It's 40 times the rent. So a regular American who wants to rent an apartment has to make a bare minimum of like $100,000 to live in an awful apartment with the view of a barbed wire fence. And these people have the nerve to protest the place that they've been given on Billionaires Row. Give me a break, bro. This is through the roof.
Over 45,000 migrants in city care, and has been reviewing additional locations upstate and around the 5 boroughs. Now, if you're not paying attention to the story, then you know that they've been trying to send them out to, let's say, nicer places outside the city, small towns. And what do some of these towns do, Eric? Some of them immediately signed executive orders that said hotels cannot rent rooms to migrants and to illegal aliens and to asylum seekers. So they just said, nope, we're not doing it. But what gets lost in this, there's 2 sides, but what gets lost in this is that this is what these mayors said was an amazing idea. We heard Mayor Eric Adams say that it was racist and they were sending it all to cities with black mayors, which is untrue. But
Eric Adams can't even read. I'm sorry. I just saw a new clip of him. The man can't read. Sorry,
he can't. He sounds like Tracy Morgan. But so they send them to all these cities where DC, Muriel Bowser is the name Bowser. They always have insane names. Was Chicago's Lori Lightfoot, crazy looking person. New York City, and then in places in California. And these are all cities where they said being a sanctuary city is amazing. And then when you combine sanctuary cities are amazing with, well, we can't say no to anybody who wants to come in, then you've got what you asked for, which is, in New York's case, 45,000 people coming in. You have nowhere to put them. But this was supposed to be an amazing thing. What the reality is it was only an amazing thing when border cities had to do it, which are usually Republican cities. You've got El Paso, Texas. You've got a bunch of South Texas cities, and you've got Arizona, New Mexico cities. But of course, in California, there's places, but they redistribute around the country, and of course, they don't talk about it when that happens, when they're doing it. And then, of course, they absorb a ton of them in California because they have this entire ecosystem, an underground, unpaid, uninsured ecosystem of people in California where they're making enough money through their tourism and through their insane taxes of the rich people that live there that they're able to have a surplus, and they don't seem to mind. Now, they're finally facing the culmination of that, where people are leaving and it's going to start to go down, their profits. But it was okay until it came to their doorstep. And how can you ask people to house people and deal with the monetary issues that arise from taking out this influx of people constantly, and then once you start getting it for like a few months, you're just like, oh, this is unsustainable. How dare you see, now there's something to be said, and I'll say last thing here, Eric, there's something to be said about, the Texas governor, for example, flying people to Martha's Vineyard and to New York City and to New York State, and DeSantis flying charter flights to Sacramento to City Hall. And it's like, this could all be solved if you guys said we're closing the border there, which is a national concern and a national policy. But they could just there's a little bit of refusal, I think, that goes a long way, that people did all the time under Trump. Well, we're not doing it. We're not. They even refused under Trump to give money to the black inner city people from Trump's plan. They refused to give it to the programs they were supposed to give it to. So there was civil disobedience a lot underneath Trump in terms of that sort of thing. And they were willing to let the
Libby
riots
Schaaf.
go on and on. But there's responsibility for the Republicans who are doing this to say, hey, it's not actually cool to just bring them in and then fly them out, but it is, proving a point that they can't actually handle what they said was a good idea.
Okay, and you have Gavin Newsom, who is pretending that he's saying, oh, well, Ron DeSantis should be charged with kidnapping. Did you hear that? Did you read that story? I mean, it's ridiculous. So the one hand, they love the sanctuary state stuff, but then on the other hand, if you send them to us, even though we said we wanted them, then you're a pathetic, weak man, and you should be charged with kidnapping. And another thing that I thought about that I didn't even mention when we're talking about that photo is that to rent a place, obviously they're creating this system that these people will never be able to get out of, right? So they're handed everything, all of these quote unquote temporary programs we all know are going to wind up being permanent. These people will never crawl out of this because, like you mentioned, they want this entire underground network of illegals that they can. Then the illegals are very similar to the dope fiends, right? They're just going to be, we just need them to be happy for the crumbs that we throw them. And we don't need them asking questions. We don't need them speaking English. We don't need them learning anything. We just need them to be happy with, them believing that we're their savior. And so while a regular person has to make an astronomical amount of money to live in New York and show proof of that money and rental history and tax returns and all that stuff, I'm old enough to realize that you can't even rent a hotel, arguably in the entire country, without an ID and a credit card. So they are quite literally getting everything. So I jumped right over the fact that you need an ID and a credit card to even rent to stay at a hotel, right? And that's a precursor to that's a fraction of what you need to actually rent an apartment. And these people are giving it all for free and still saying it's not enough. We want more. It's ridiculous.
Not to mention you need to be 25 with an ID and a credit card to rent a car. I don't know if it's like that where you are.
Yeah.
So the TranzPhantom Menace that's happening in Alberta, Canada right now, is carrying over to Ottawa, the city's capital, the nation's capital. I don't even know the capital of my own country. And there was a protest, Eric, over the fact that the Ottawa City Council, the Ottawa School District Council has decided that, we don't need to refer to people's genders anymore. If this is true, I could be wrong, but this is what was reported, is that the school board and the school district there says we don't need to refer to children as he or she anymore. Let's just do, what they say for government agencies and for textbooks and for what am I thinking of when they refer to parents and everything. Let's just refer to them as them. Everybody's going to be a them and a they, and the kids don't need their own pronouns because we want to be accepting of everyone. All two people that have changed their pronouns in the entire district probably. Well, obviously now that's going to be more, but this is the idea behind it, is to be inclusive. You change language to be inclusive. The reality of it is we change language to manipulate and indoctrinate people and eliminate certain speech so that it becomes weird for people. And before we get into this, I'd like to give an example of something that has come up in the last 5 to 10 years, Eric, of people of color. That was eliminated from society for a good reason, because people used to have, the colored people and the white people found and everything, and everybody agreed that that was terrible. And we shouldn't be separating people like that. And it just became one thing. There's no other sectioned off segregation. But now we've decided to bring that all back in just reverse order. So for some reason it's different. And that's what I mean by the manipulation of language, is we're going to bring certain things in, like, transphobic, which doesn't actually mean people are afraid of them. We're going to bring in and eliminate language so that in the future it no longer gets used. And this is not a situation, Eric, where they're trying to be inclusive. This is a situation where they're trying to push their ideology. I'm 100% sure of it. You can't tell me that there's people on the school board that think, just to be inclusive, we need to eliminate personal pronouns. No, it's people. Most likely, if there's 8 people, there's 6 of them on there who actually want to push this ideology, because this is what's become apparent in every single genre, space, and profession and level of government, that this is the proper agenda. This is the proper viewpoint we should be pushing, and we're going to push it because you're wrong and we actually know what's best for you. And so what happened in Ottawa, Eric, is you had a big protest of the T's and the B's and the teachers and parents that support them for some reason. And they found themselves facing off against Christians and a lot of Muslims protesting against them. Now, the reason why this is such a crazy situation is what you'll see on the screen in a moment is Muslim children stomping on Pride Progress flags. So what I've learned is not only is there the Pride flag, the rainbow flag, but the rainbow flag with the triangles and the circles and whatnot, and the skin colors, which there was never any purple and pink people on the flag represented by the flag. They had children there, Muslim children, stomping out the flags. Now, do I agree with bringing children to a protest? No. What the interesting part here is how is Justin Trudeau and the Liberal government going to deal with this? Because as we all know, he loves the people that he brings in to try to get them to vote for them. But he also loves, just as Joe Biden declared the other day, he loves the people who don't know what gender they are and they're gender confused and they have all these other issues, which we all know scientifically and statistically. So it's going to be interesting to see, Eric, what happens here. And we'll play this video and get
the suspense is killing me, bro. Play the clip. Come on.
All right, Eric, would you like to unpack that situation for everyone at home?
Well, it's kind of, look, we also saw the something very similar. I think it was actually a little bit worse at was it Satakoy Elementary, where the mostly Armenian parents, right? And one thing I noticed, and because we're never fully prepared, I should have sent you these, but when I read these articles about a protest very similar to that in Southern California, you'll notice that a lot of the mainstream media doesn't actually, they're very quick to identify racially certain stories, right? Like, oh, white police officer guns down black man at grocery store because he's a race, you know what I mean? But it's very strange if you'll notice, like NBC, for instance, doesn't identify that or doesn't note that the majority of the parents in that particular protest were Armenian, right? Because obviously it doesn't fit the narrative. And this one, we see something similar with this largely Muslim population. And I think, and of course I could be very wrong here, but it's over, right? They're in their death throes. It's over. You guys, we had a good game, okay? You pretending that your little boy is a little girl and coming up with all these new weird words and trying to force people to capitulate to your weirdo pseudo reality delusion. It's over. It's done. The parents don't want it. Joe Rogan's talking about it. Target stock is tanking. Obviously, Bud Light started the entire thing. Nike doing the sports brawl with Dylan Mulvaney. It's over, bro. You guys gave it a good try, but we're not all as stupid as you think. So please, let's just move on. You can go back to your climate change thing, or you can pick something else, but we're not doing the mutilation of kids. We're not doing the preferred pronouns. It's over. You can cancel Matt Walsh and Candace Owens in the Daily Wire, but everybody knows. And you can even go onto a politician's Instagram like Scott Wiener, who people may or may not know. I believe him to be the creepiest man in all of American politics. There's a number of very strange things that he did that we won't get into here. But if you look at his Instagram, you will see, and I can assume it's probably similar on Twitter. I don't use Twitter. Maybe I should a little bit more, but neither here nor there. Most people know. Even on like the Instagram account for like the city of Arizona or the city of Phoenix or downtown Phoenix, you know, these little like travel Instagram accounts, and they post up a pride flag, and you can look through hundreds of comments saying we've had enough. It's over. So you guys gave it a good run, the old college try, but just stop, bro. It's done. Go be gay. You can have a pride flag, but as far as the triangles and the circles and tuck swimwear and gender affirming care and puberty blockers, just give it a rest, bro. Pick your battles, go on to something else, because this one is impossible. It's over. It's done. It's kaput. Put a fork in it.
I think it's just going to result in another failed policy. You see all these states. Missouri was one of the most recent ones to ban it a few months ago. Mississippi, Florida, of
Tennessee,
course,
I believe.
and I think what you'll see is if they start having these trans and gender affirming care, as they call it, sanctuary states, they're going to see another failed policy in action. So just like, you know, sanctuary cities don't work, and cities where you let the criminals out, the no bail cities out, this is going to see another failed policy, another failed place. So what's going to happen? You ask, where the no bail thing's pretty obvious. The criminals are out, crimes through the roof. The sanctuary city thing is obvious. There's no money for them. There's no places to stay. What they're going to end up having is a declining population for a couple of reasons. People are going to leave is one reason. Another reason is that people aren't going to be having kids. That's another reason. They're also going to start losing money is another thing from all these surgeries that are going to be covered by the state. So you're going to have all these factors that contribute to negative growth. I mean, everybody says that Japan and the Koreas, obviously North Korea for one reason, I shouldn't have said, South Korea and Japan have a declining population because of things like their motivation, because of things like not wanting to have children. If you were to take a society like that, and then you're going to add, you know, massive amounts of abortion, gender ideology running amok, and then you add in sanctuary cities where you need to take all these, you bring all these people in, and then you have crime and murder and all this stuff when people can't afford to have kids, you're going to have this society in the Washington states, the New York states, the Illinois, and the Californias where there's no progress being made at all. They tell you that there's progress because, you know, you're being very nice and you're giving all your money to other people. But what is actually happening is your society is crumbling around you. So if
There's progress for them, right? They are benefiting. Those policies work for the establishment ruling class. So it's going in the right direction for them, which is the exact opposite of the regular American or the, you know, regular citizen.
So they're just going to have to wait and see that yet another policy has failed. And you know, you mentioned climate change. That's going to come next too. There's all these little battles that I look out throughout the timeline. And if you remember, if you were around on the internet like 10 to 15 years ago, there was like battles with atheism and Christianity. There's battles with Islam, and all these ideologies get battled out in the public square. And for the most part, we move past them. Racism thing has kind of been battled out in the public square, I think, as well. And we're past that. And then they move on to the trans kids thing. And now we're also simultaneously doing the wildfire climate change, because climate change is one of the ones that's so vague that they keep coming up with something new. And Justin Trudeau wants to increase the carbon tax now, even though it's pretty obvious that people have set things on fire like they tend to do. They tend to push the narrative. When one wildfire happens naturally, they're just like, this is our chance. But this is something that's going to come next, and people are going to realize that no matter how much money you pump into something, it doesn't make you feel better. No matter how much money you give to illegal aliens, Eric, it's not going to make you feel better when you can't afford to buy a house. No matter how much money you pump into children getting hormones and stuff, it's not going to make the children feel better. There's this old adage of you can't throw money at a problem and hope that it goes away. Same with homeless people.
Yeah, well, they're not throwing away that money. They're pocketing that money. Okay, like it's going somewhere. Like, and that's why it works for them. So you was the old adage. If the old meme, I should say, I'm gonna pay more in taxes to make the weather more gooder. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense. And I love the climate change thing the most because it's probably one of our oldest. Like, we used to call it global warming, and we used to talk about the ozone layer back when we were kids. And that's the one I love the most because they can literally take anything and turn it into a climate change issue. Wildfire, climate change. Drought in California, climate change. Flood in Florida, climate change. So when there's no water, it's climate change. When there's too much water, it's climate change. I mean, they're just loving it, right? And they can tell you, oh, you can't have a gas stove. You can't drive a car. It's all gonna. I mean, we were at the point where you remember when Eric Adams, Tracy Morgan said that we know that the plant-based diet is the best. I don't know. That's like maybe a little bit of Cuomo sneaking in there, but plant-based diet is the best. And we're sitting here like, these are the same people that for 3 years told us you can't weigh in on COVID because you're not a doctor. And now you have the mayor giving you dietary tips. Like, what are we talking about here? It's completely, it's completely insane. And that's why I think, look, here's the thing too. The reason why I can kind of slowly become a little bit more optimistic about this, of course, the Bud Light thing starts to really crack the facade. But I think the best thing about it is when you look at like the gossip blog sites, when you look at like DJ Academics, or when you look at the Shade Room, or when you look at Savoy or Sway in the Morning, or even the Breakfast Club, and you read through the comments of like the target audience that like the black folks that must have voted for Joe Biden, otherwise they weren't black. Those people see through it. And that's the last vestige of people that we believe they had control of, right? Do you really think that middle America, do you think if I go back out to South Dakota or Wyoming, everybody's going to be like, yay, everything's gay? And no, they're regular Americans. So the last people they thought they had control of, they no longer have control of, which is largely in part, is a big reason why they hate Kanye West so much, right? Like Kanye has the ear of a lot of, young black men, older, like everybody from 20 early 20s all the way up into their 40s are can be influenced. Even the other rappers are still influenced by this guy. And that's why, I mean, when Kanye wore a red hat, they're like, no, we got to get rid of this guy. Same thing with Kyrie Irving, right? They hate Kyrie Irving every step of the way now. And look, maybe Kyrie Irving's a little eccentric, maybe he's a little bit annoying, but if he didn't say, you know what, I don't want to get this shot, then nothing else would have happened to him. If he would have just capitulated, like say your buddy, your good Canadian, your brethren, Andrew Wiggins. Remember, Andrew Wiggins said, no, I don't want to do it. And they're like, you're going to do it. And he was like, okay. And he just did it. So those are the reasons why I'm optimistic, is because, and I was actually thinking about doing a video on my channel about this, reading some of the comments from DJ Academics, because, and look, you see all the, last thing, you see all the like memes and the jokes and stuff. And it's a bunch of like, there's all these clips of like, basically, for lack of a better term, like hood guys, black guys, like making fun of gay people, right? So it's like you're not gonna trick them into buying into the whole agenda. They're not gonna do it. You go to a bodega in Flatbush and start talking to the guys hanging out in front of the store, they're not with it, bro. It's over. It's done. That's why I say hang it up, find something else to push on people because we're not buying this one. I hope.
Well, there's a YouTube channel I stumbled upon the other day about a guy in the hood, and it says, uh, I don't even know what the title was, but basically it says that he's in the hood. He works at a bodega or a convenience store or gas station, whatever you want to call it, behind a full thing of bulletproof glass from left to right. And he says stuff to the people the guys that come in, calls them boo boo or shorty or something, and they flip out, Eric. They're just like, I'm not tolerating that. Like, they're not even tolerating a joke about it. One guy even considered taking his stuff back that he had just bought. So it exists. And
Yeah,
I just
we're not
wanted
doing it.
and I just wanted to add on that no, I don't actually remember anymore. Yeah, I don't actually remember anymore. We're gonna we're gonna have to take it from there. Patreon.com/UOPod. Sorry for the technical difficulties today. My computer, I think, is dead. I think this week I might have to look into getting a new computer, unfortunately. Ever since it was shutting down on me randomly, so I tried to finagle some things, and now it's been super slow. And maybe there's a way back. Maybe there's a way back machine. I think you can reset to things from a few days ago. I'll try that. But if you sign up on patreon.com/UOPod, then you will get a podcast with no technical difficulties because it's pre-recorded and it's uncensored and it talks about way more stuff. You see how we still have to dance around stuff on YouTube, and we don't have to do that on there. So it's a wonderful time. And of course, if you're listening on audio, if you're listening in the car, we love you as well. Thank you for listening consistently on there. There are people that are growing each week. Our YouTube channel, Unauthorized Opinions, you can sign up there and subscribe. You can always super chat us every week. We'll read that. Either way, spread it around, help us out. But Patreon, of course, will help us the most in the long run because it makes it so we don't have to rely on the big platforms. Eric's considering selling his body. So we have to save ourselves here, right, Eric?
Feet finder.
UOPod.com. Final words, Eric. Play us out.
Well, of course, buy my book, which is actually only getting better with age. New York City 2020. It was bizarre then, and when you look at it now, it's only that much more bizarre. So go ahead and check that out. Amazon, of course.
Turn it up, Jordan.